Hi folks, you're Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of various surveys that have been doing the rounds, and I don't know how accurate these really are, or whether they're just there to get clickbait, or even what the questions were and how they were phrased. But these claiming that it's okay to kill political opponents. People just have a different view from you politically. So somebody may say, well, transgender rights, and if you don't use someone's pronouns, I have the right to kill you for not using someone's pronouns. If you don't believe that a black lesbian must be the next president, then I have the right to kill you because you have a different view from me. Now, again, without knowing the question, it's a little bit hard, but the claim, it's pretty consistent, the claim across these surveys is that somewhere between 65 and 75% of people who take their views or assume their views are leftist, open borders and pronouns, black lesbians everywhere, DEI, those people, they're the ones most likely, they're the ones that are close to guaranteed to say it's okay to kill you if, because you have different views from them or if you don't agree with them. This is quite remarkable, of course. Now, I don't remember that sort of language, it's okay to kill someone else just because they have a different view. And one of the great things about the Western democracies was their ability to change governments, and the governments may be of a different ideological persuasion, at least to some extent, to be able to change government without there being a revolution or without there being, killings, riots, and the armed forces on the streets, and so on and so forth. So the Western world, the advanced economies, were really the only places where you could do that. There were sort of totalitarian police states where they would change leaders, but the ideology of government remained exactly the same. So now, if you look at, say, the difference between and I'll use Britain as a case in point here, but in the post-World War II era, there was the Labor Party, which had a very socialist view on things, nationalisation of industries and so on, and the Conservative Party that had a much more capitalist view of things. Now, excuse me, they would constantly be changing policies based on whoever was in government. Now, there wasn't a complete change. When the nationalisations took place, they were just too complicated to unwind. So they were, to some degree, left in place. But a lot of other policies to do with welfare and incentives for businesses and this sort of thing, they varied quite widely between the parties in some cases. And there was a constant sort of put in place and reversal, institute and unwind, depending on who is in government. Now, what kept the focus sort of pretty much along the general trajectory, at least, was that both parties were representing the people, and both parties wanted to improve the lives of the people and improve the standing and the economy of the nation. Now, how they got there, they could bicker about, but they both had that same objective. So that kept the parties really focused, more or less anyway, in one direction. And you could say the same about the United States, Australia, and so on. Australia also had, quite a socialist binge, and again, a lot of the banks and things that were nationalised when the socialists or very leftist type government was in office. This wasn't unwound until many years later, decades later. And so no matter, which party was in government, some of those policies once enacted stayed in place. But again, both parties had the same objective and purpose. One may view it a little bit differently in terms of the socialist aspect, but effectively they were all on the same path, all on the same road, give or take. Now, the divergence came when the globalists started to have a greater influence, and and this was where the politics began to change. So that once the previously sovereign governments of the West became nothing more than globalist stooges and flunkies, then the government, the politicians said, well, we don't represent the people anymore, so they're not our masters. Our masters are the globalists, not the people. And that created then a whole different path of, well, what is the objective of government? Well, it's to serve the globalists. That's what do the globalists want? Well, they want mass migration. They want this. They want to subvert the existing social order by having DEI and affirmative action and black lesbians and transgender. So that mass subversion has to be at the expense of the dominant straight white male Christian population. So they have to be pushed aside in order to make way for this. But one of the things that among a number of things that the globalists have achieved is to inculcate in the population, and much of it, a passionate sort of inferno of hatred against the society, against the people, against Christianity, against straight white males, and so on. And this hatred and the perception that any white society is evil and bad and must be diluted, subverted, if not erased completely. And they've managed to convince a vast swathe of the white population to engage in civilizational suicide. I don't know if this has ever been done before in human history, and you have to hand it to them. They've done rather well at this. If someone had said to me 30, 40 years ago, when I was sort of, I don't know, not long out of, probably still in school, this civilizational suicide would take place, I'd have laughed at it. There's no way it'd be possible. Politicians wouldn't allow it. The voters wouldn't allow it. The judges wouldn't allow it. There'd be, all layers of protection that we have here in Western societies. They'd never get it off the ground. It would be impossible. It just couldn't be done. And yet here we are. It's been successfully done. Again, large swathes of the population have been captured here through the education institutions, the public services, government. The list just goes on. The legal profession, it's insane. But there you have it. Now, looking at this sort of not simply the architecture of it, rather the timeline as it's moved along. We're now in a situation where in the West, there is not a single, other than maybe the United States executive, there is not a single Western government that represents the people anymore. They all represent globalist interests and will aggressively and actively pursue policies and attitudes and views and so on that are absolutely in defiance of the wishes of the people and directly targeting straight white males. Looking at a few recent court cases, a brown guy or black guy, rapes white women, and he gets a couple of months of weekend detention and a good behaviour bond, even though it's a violent crime, and you'd think at the forefront of gender conflict, but nah. But then there's a white guy who says that mass migration is too high and white people are being mistreated, and he'll be thrown into prison for a few years. And you think, what? But this is the case of totalitarianism, where the people no longer have a say, where the government now, again representing the globalists, is more concerned about people who have contrary political views than they are about actual crime, which has always been a big sort of criticism of any totalitarian regime. They really don't care so much about murders and robbery and this and that. They don't give a shit. But what they do care about is people have the wrong opinions, and they'll imprison you or even kill you for that. So this has crept over now into the general social discourse, where if the government of the United States tries to evict illegal criminal aliens, let me repeat that, illegal criminal aliens from the United States, armies of people can be mobilized to run interference and harass the lawful authorities in doing what's required on on the law books. It's written into law. If you come into the country illegally, you have to leave. And if you commit crimes or have committed crimes and so on, then that's yet another aspect. Hey, you're an undesirable illegal alien here, and yet all these people are running interference, trying to kill the police officers or injure them, ram them with motor vehicles. And when we look at the action, the hysterical action against political candidate Trump, during the Biden years, the attempted assassination of candidate Trump and later President Trump, and yet this is gloating and gleeful coverage from the media that would never have occurred years ago, and yet now it's openly celebrated. Hey, someone's trying to kill the president. Hey, isn't that fantastic? Isn't that great? Hey, yeah. This was an inconceivable situation decades ago, but now it's. I'm almost accepting it as just normal that there are large numbers of people out there that would celebrate the assassination of anyone who holds views, be they political or otherwise, anyone who holds views contrary to their own. If you hold views different to mine, you must die. And this is not hasn't leveled off and is starting to back. It's actually getting worse. And there are various devices used. Well, what I'll do is before I kill you, I'll call you a Nazi, which means you're then not entitled to any legal rights, which means when I kill you, I've performed a public service good. This type of thing. And it's insane. Again, it was yet this is not only tolerated, but it's celebrated. And civilizational suicide or mass participation in civilizational suicide is now just how it is. It's just out there. Now, there's things could be done to stop it. For example, there are a lot of protections for religions like Islam and Judaism and whatever, but none for Christianity. So people can can destroy effigies of Christ and can urinate on effigies of Christ, can do all sorts of things, attack Christian religion left, right, and centre, and that's accepted. And it's we're allowed to do freedom of speech. Well, would you do the same to Islam or to Judaism? Oh, no. Only Christian religion can be pilloried like this. So laws, I would argue, laws need to be brought out saying, well, look, either all religions have equal protection, or none of them do. Then it's okay to blaspheme against, the Torah or the Quran or something, if it's okay to blaspheme against Christians and the Bible. But if it's not okay to blaspheme against the Quran and the Torah and the like, or I don't know, Hindu religious books or something, if it's not okay to do that, then it's not okay to do it to Christian religion. So either all religions are protected or none are protected. Similarly, for minority status, where blacks, gays, and Jews and Muslims are all protected as minorities. But it's still okay to call all straight white people Nazi, fascist, Hitlers. Still okay to do that, and still okay to take away their legal rights and so on. But it's just not okay when you do it to the others. No. Everywhere you call someone a Nazi, you go to prison. You go to fucking prison. You call someone I don't know, just Jewish slur or whatever, or a Muslim slur or a gay slur or this and thing, then you also go to prison. So you go to prison wherever you use the slurs. Now, if you want, but freedom of speech, freedom of hate, well, then no one is protected. No group is protected. So it's one or the other. But unless laws are brought in to stop the pushing the view that it's okay to kill straight white people or Christians and destroy their effigies and their monuments and their statues, and unless there are laws to stop that, then I think we're on a hurtling towards a situation where it will be acceptable within a decade or so to just randomly murder white people. Oh, they were just Nazis. I was doing those. They was just a Nazi. They intended to use a racial slur, so I killed them before they could do it. Oh, well done. I mean, do we really want that sort of society? I think not. Being a Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.